Warning, watch this video or you will regret it. There is a loneliness that does not come from the absence of loved ones, but from the feeling that no one really listens or understands. In their old age, many old people still live with their children and grandchildren, still have people to talk to every day, but they feel lost in their own home. No one asks, "How are you today?" Or, "What do you think about that?" And they gradually stop talking. Loneliness, not because of the lack of people around, but because of the lack of empathy. Let's listen and enter that silent world, where the hearts of old people still yearn to be understood, like when they were young. When no one listens to what you say, when we are young, we talk a lot because there is always someone listening. But when we get old, we start to talk less. Not because we run out of things to tell, but because we feel that our words are no longer accepted. Many old men and women live in families with many children and grandchildren, and every day someone still asks them a few polite questions like, "Have you eaten yet? How are you?" But deep down, they know that these are just habits, not real listening. An old person said, "I still eat with my children and grandchildren every day, but no one asks me what I am thinking the whole time." They tell an old story, but before they can finish their sentence, they are interrupted. They give an opinion and are immediately accused of not understanding today's times. Over time, they realize that their words are no longer valuable, and then they stop talking. That silence is not because they don't want to talk, but because they don't want to feel ignored again. They choose to be silent, to withdraw, to live in memories that no one wants to hear again. They can smile, they can nod, they can appear happy. But in fact, that is just a cover to hide a smoldering sadness, the feeling of being forgotten while still present. Being alone in a crowd. There is a strange kind of loneliness when you have people around you, but no one really sees you. The elderly often fall into this state. Children and grandchildren may live under the same roof, but each is busy with their own rhythm of life. Work, study, social networks, friends. In that picture of a family that seems full of laughter, the elderly are the most lonely piece. They see everyone laughing, but no one asks them where they feel tired today. They see the whole family gathered, but no one really listens when they recall an old memory. They live in the noise, but their minds are silent, feeling like an outsider in their own family. That is the most painful loneliness. Many elderly people therefore gradually form the habit of not speaking. They are afraid of being judged as talkative, outdated, or sticky with old stories. But silence does not mean they are okay. It is a silent cry for help, a wish to be seen as a human being who still has value, still has feelings, still needs to be understood. The elderly do not need to be pampered. They just need to be sympathized. Because what they fear most is not physical loneliness, but the feeling of being forgotten in the place called home. When there is no one left to share memories, old people carry a treasure trove of memories, pieces of a life lived, loved, and sacrificed. But when they want to share, the listener is no longer there or does not have enough patience. Old stories become repetitive. Old emotions are considered outdated. So they gradually withdraw, telling themselves as a way to hold on to things that no one cares about anymore. Imagine you carry a beautiful story in your heart, a memory that haunts you for life. But every time you mention it, the listener's eyes are absent or hastily change the subject. That dissonance makes the elderly feel completely isolated from the present world. They not only feel lonely, but also feel like an outdated person. The older they get, the more they live in their memories. No one wants to keep talking about the past if the present is caring enough and the future is hopeful enough. But when no one understands, memories are the only place that helps them feel that they still exist, at least to themselves. So if possible, sit patiently and listen to a story that you have heard dozens of times. Because sometimes what the elderly need is not advice, but just a loving, listening gaze. When emotions are seen as weak at a certain age, people expect the elderly to be strong, to endure, to not bother anyone. They are expected to be the ones to inspire the next generation, to be experienced, to know how to accept, to know how to let go. But few people dare to look deeply to see that. They also have moments of weakness, also have emotions that need to be understood like anyone else. The sadness of the elderly is often underestimated. They say they feel lonely. Young people say, "We have our children." They sigh. People say, "Stop thinking negatively." That gentle but continuous denial of emotions makes them no longer want to share. They withdraw, learn to be silent, learn to swallow their tears. And then one day, even the people around them are surprised. "Why are you always so quiet?" No one wants to be a burden. But the longer people live, the better they are at hiding their true emotions. And that is what makes the elderly invisible in their own lives. If someone could sincerely ask, "Is there anything really bothering you today?" and would sit down and listen to it until the end, maybe the elderly would no longer feel alone. Because sometimes what they need is not a solution, but someone who allows them to be weak, to be themselves, even just once a day. Little things that can heal. Sometimes understanding doesn't need fancy words. A simple text message. "How are you today?" A phone call that lasts just a few minutes, or sitting down to eat a meal without scrolling through your phone. All are gentle medicines for the elderly's soul. We are often busy running after life, forgetting that our ordinary presence in the elderly's day is something special. When we are young, we expect others to understand us. But when we get old, what they need is not pity, but the feeling of being listened to and respected. You don't have to do anything great to warm their hearts. Just give them the feeling that someone still really wants to understand me. There are things that, once lost, you will never get back, including the grandparents, or parents who once sat silently waiting for a conversation that you didn't have time to start. Don't let indifference turn into lifelong regret. Get closer, listen more, and you'll find that not only will they be healed, but your heart will soften with each honest conversation. Old age is not scary because of darkness or illness, but the scariest thing is when the heart is still beating, but no one wants to listen to the voice from within. They don't need too much, just an understanding look, a sincere question, an unconditional hug is enough to soothe the lonely years. If you still have parents and grandparents, please take the time to really listen to them before those voices become just memories. If you find this video meaningful, please like, share with your loved ones, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next humane content.